Hello and welcome to another Fotospeed tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at how interpolation works when you come to image sizing and how to find out the native size of your file size, or the output size of that file, should I say, off of your camera. So let's have a look in Photoshop and we'll have a look at finding our native file size, and then we'll also look at how we go about enlarging it. So we can make a file, quite a small file, into quite a large picture like this one here. So let's go into Photoshop and we'll have a look at a picture and see how big we can actually print this here. Now, apologies for my photography here. I've actually used an iPhone image because I do find them the best pictures to use when it comes to demonstrating what we can actually get out of a file and file size. And there is a reason for this. So first of all, I've very quickly just turned this to black and white and done a very rough edit on it. So like I said, I do apologise for the quality of the work. But what this picture will do is it will demonstrate to us the techniques in finding out the native print size of a file straight off our camera or phone or any other device would be able to use. Okay, so in Photoshop what we need to do is we need to go up to Image and then Image Size. If we click here, we'll come up with our image size box here, but we also get a little kind of proof and preview, should I say, on the left hand side. Okay, so now what we're interested in though is the sizes on the right hand side here. So we've got fit to original size here, we've got the dimensions in pixels, we've even got like the size of it actually in megabytes. I can't believe it's actually that big. That's the actual Photoshop file, to be honest. Now, underneath what we have is the size of the image. So this image currently is 56 inches by 31.5 inches. Amazing. I mean, Apple would be proud of that size, I think, if you told them that off a single lens iPhone, you could get a 56 by 31.5 inch image and actually print it at that size. I think they'd be really happy. However, what we have to notice is just on the bottom here, the pixels per inch figure, the resolution is set to 72 ppi. Now, 72 ppi is the native resolution for screen and screen showing images on the screen. For print, we would need around about the 300 mark or 340, around that kind of mark, anywhere between 300 and 350 depending on your printer, because they all have slightly different native resolutions and such. Okay, so we need to change this figure to actually get a true value and a true size in inches of what this picture will print at. So to do this, what we need to do first of all is just click or untick, should I say, resampling here. Okay, because then it won't try to enlarge it or create more pixels for us, which we'll move on to in a little bit. Okay, so now very simply with this figure here, this 72, if we just highlight it and just change it to 300, now we get a native size of this image. So the width of the image is 13.44 inches and the height is 7.56. So somewhere in between A4 and A3, more towards A4 I would say. Still quite not bad size. So actually from an iPhone image you could probably print up to A4 and probably squeeze an A3 out of it if you're absolutely wanting to. Okay, but it's this resolution we're interested in. Now that has gone down dramatically from the 56 inches. Okay, but say we wanted to print this at A2. We've got an A2 printer and we wanted to just print this at A2. If we printed it at 300 ppi currently, we would probably start to see a little bit of pixelation happening, because we would be increasing this size in inches to like the 24 by 16 kind of size. We'd be really pushing this and kind of getting to the limitations of this file. So what we have to do is we have to do something called interpolation, or commonly known as just resizing the image so we can enlarge the image. Now, we do this by reticking resample. Now, Photoshop has a selection of logarithms in here for enlargements. We've got preserve details and bicubic smoother. These are the two I'd recommend to use. It gives you a little bit of a preview on here what's going to be going on. Okay. Now, how interpolation works, or the resizing, is when you enlarge an image. Let me just close this down. So when we enlarge an image right up to a pixel level, let's go right in here just to demonstrate this for you. Okay, so we're right in now, and we can actually see the little squares and all the pixels in here. Okay, now what interpolation does is it will enlarge the image for you, and it does this by, say we're taking a section of 9 squares here, it will stretch these out. Now, it doesn't stretch the pixels and make them bigger, because we want to keep that resolution at 300 pixels per inch. So what it does is it creates space. So there becomes white squares, or blank squares. There's nothing in them. So if we printed it without any interpolation going on and we just enlarged it, there would be white spots, or kind of where the paper would be coming through all over our picture. And what interpolation does is it acts a little bit like the heel brush and the clone stamp, as it will blend these spaces in. So it will take a little bit of a sample, say from 1 pixel and the pixel next to us, and it will kind of blend this two together and put it in the middle. That kind of makes sense. So it will sample, like the heel brush does, it kind of just samples the pixels around it and fills in the gaps for us. That's what interpolation is doing for us. So it can actually create quite a smooth effect when we're enlarging. Okay, let's go back full size. Let's go back into our image size here, and we'll have a look and see how we do this. Now, bicubic smoother, what happens is when you're enlarging, it doesn't really add any sharpening or any contrast to the pixels that it's adding in. It kind of makes everything kind of softens everything a little bit, so it's quite a little bit, well, it's a little bit smoother, should I say. Now, the bicubic, the preserve details option will add a little bit of contrast to the edge pixels, basically. So it adds a little bit of sharpening, should we say. If any Lightroom users are out there, Lightroom does this all in the background, and it uses preserve details to do this. Okay, I prefer bicubic smoother just because then I can apply a sharpening mask over the top and control the sharpening a little bit easier with a high pass filter or unsharpen mask or smart sharpening, etc., whichever you use. Okay, so let's enlarge this to 24 inches. So what we need to do first of all, though, because I've just come out of that menu and gone back in, it's reverted back to 300. So I need to put that back in there and just tick resampling. Now I'm going to use bicubic smoother. Now there's two ways to interpolate. One is to let Photoshop do it automatically, and the other way is to do it using what is called a step enlargement. So first of all, let's just let Photoshop do it, and then I'll go through this step enlargement method in a second as well. Okay, so the width, because we've got the height and width linked here, it's going to keep the ratio for us. So all I'm going to do is put in 24 inches in there. Actually, I'm going to go a bit bigger. I'm going to put 16 in here. So actually, I've got quite a big print. 17, let's go for 16. There you go. So the height now is 16 inches and the width is going to be 28.4444. Okay. Now, if we click on here, you can actually see the preview of the image and what it's actually done. So it's a bit pixely there because that was the old one, and then it's enlarged it for us. It's just smoothed everything out for us and added in all those extra little pixels for us. So now if we click OK, Photoshop will whir away and it will enlarge the image for us. So there we have our image. Enlarged. It's done a pretty good job actually. If we go back into image size now, you will see that the resolution is 300, the width is 28.443, and we've got 16 inches on the height. Okay. And I have to say, Photoshop in the automatic way does a fantastic job of interpolation now. They've really improved it over the years, and it really works well. Now let me just go back and show you the other way of enlarging this image, and that is called the step enlargement. Now the process is the same, but instead of going for the enlargement straight away, the final enlargement should I say, what we need to do is we're going to go up in like 10% increments. Okay, so first of all I'm just going to untick resample and I'm going to change this to 300. And now we're going to go up in 10% increments. I always kind of round it up though. So on the height here, I'm going to want to get to 16. You kind of pick one or the other. I want to get to 16. So I'm going to actually put 9 in here as an enlargement to start with. Oh, one thing I forgot to do there was click resample. So I'm going to just click resample. I'll put it at 300. Click resample, and then I'm going to put 9 in. And the reason we need to click resample is because otherwise it won't hold those pixels for us, that pixels per inch for us, and we can get ourselves in quite a little bit of trouble when we're doing it. So always make sure you've got resample ticked. Now I'm going to put 9 in there, and you can see it's jumped up to 16 there. So now I'm just going to click OK, and we've enlarged. Now we repeat that process. So with everything still ticked, everything's at 300 there, everything's still nice and ticked. So we're just going to add 2 to this, so I'm going to go 11. And we'll just click OK. And then we do it again. Now the idea is doing it in steps. Photoshop is going to have less data to analyze and less pixels to fill in. So it's actually going to do a better job. I think this was true a few years ago, but as I said, I think Photoshop have improved things quite a lot. And I think now the automatic one also does include a little bit of step enlargement in there. They've kind of written it into the logarithm. However, as always with printing, kind of do a test. Do one with Photoshop doing it for you, and then one doing a step enlargement and see which you prefer. As I said, I've done a couple of tests and I haven't seen a massive difference, to be honest, between the two. So our final one is we just go up to 16 here. And now we've made that enlargement there. Okay. And that is how you enlarge an image. Even if you're going from A4 to A2, roughly, that we've done here, or we go from A4 to 60 inches, it's going to be the same process. I would say with enlargement, the image will become a little bit softer. So it's always worth just resharpening for the size as well that you're doing. Always add another high pass mask on here as well, just to sharpen it up. And also always remember viewing distance as well. When you're viewing these big prints, you should always view a print from its longest edge, a minimum distance of its longest edge. So with this print here, we should always view this from 24 inches away. Never like 8 inches or 4 inches, because we're going to start to see a little bit of breakup in there. The bigger we go, because it depends on the camera you have as well, but it also is just going to be the limits of what we can do with a print. But we can go pretty big. Photoshop is very good. Like I said, any Lightroom users, what happens is this is all happening in the background for you. So in your print module, when you select your resolution and you select your size, Lightroom is doing this in the background for you, like I said, in a preserve details logarithm. So you don't really have to think about it, but it is nice to know what's going on in the background, I always think. Okay. Well, I hope that's been useful, and any questions at all, just pop them in the comments below, and I hope to see you next time.